A cold industrial piece of metal or steel is more reminiscent of a common building material rather than an object of art.
And then because of the medium being steel, most people have no idea that you can do particular shapes with it.
Meet Sam Castner, local Penn Yan artist whose forte is metal sculpting. For him, this raw material becomes a way of expressing an idea and capturing an inspiration.
Michelangelo would carve stone. He would see the forms inside the stone. I don't work that way. I take pieces and assemble them into other forms to make my sculpture.
Architect Nicole Martin with Insight Architecture in Geneva respects the work that Sam does with this medium.
The thing about metal that's really fun is that you can take something that's plainer, and by cutting it, punching it, pulling it, folding it, as you see in so much of Sam's work, that flat element becomes very three-dimensional. It takes up a space. It starts to cast its own shadows. It takes up a presence.
With her line of work, she draws similarities to the visual appeal that Castner's pieces exhibit.
Art and architecture can both do that by being dynamic, by being engaging, and by capturing your imagination, and by really serving that purpose of letting you know where you are.
Sam started his journey into the art world while in college.
I took a pottery class and kind of found myself.
Shortly after graduation from Alfred University, he moved to California to teach classes at the Mensendina Art Center and continued his passion for metal sculpting. After a few years, he returned back to his hometown in the Finger Lakes and started his own studio.
My studio is our tractor shop here on the farm. My grandfather, I believe, built it when he was a teenager.
From this humble studio dubbed Iron Vine Studios, which he still works out of today, Castner began to work with the modernist metal sculptor Albert Pele. He ultimately became Pele's right-hand man as project manager and head fabricator while working both from Iron Vine Studios and Pele Studios.
I was able to communicate with Albert almost without talking most of the time when we were working together. He would stick a hand out for a tool, and by the time he said hammer, there was a hammer in his hand.
After working off and on with Pele for around 10 years, Castner decided it was time to focus on his own work. Numerous pieces of Sam's work can be viewed throughout the Finger Lakes.
Various wineries, private clients, restaurants.
Nicole of Insight Architecture worked with Sam while he created a custom metal sign for Opus, a downtown Geneva cafe and coffee shop.
It's fun to work directly with the fabricator because you're not always able to do so in the architectural relationship, and Sam could talk about exactly how the cut was going to feel, or the texture, depth, shadow lines, all those really important details.
Partner at Insight Architecture, Rick Hauser, has also been able to pick out Sam's pieces throughout the Finger Lakes.
His work specifically, I think, is terrific in terms of its scale, its materiality, and to a certain extent its simplicity, the level of abstraction that it brings to it, whether it's a sign or whether it's a sculpture. That's what I've always noticed.
With the time to focus on his own work, Sam recently was able to complete his first own large-scale piece resting on the front entrance of Red Tail Ridge Winery. From the road, one can spot the shining stainless steel hawk placed on top of an immense tree from purposely orange-rusted metal. In front lies the winery's name in stainless steel, again contrasting against the metal with a hue of deep rust red. Rick believes the sculpture speaks volumes to the experience of the winery itself and the tone that it sets for the space.
It seems to defy gravity. On so many levels, I just love that sculpture.
Castner spent over 1,500 hours to create the towering piece made of recycled or reused metal pieces, a common practice for his sculptures.
I enjoy finding something that is someone else's waste and returning it into a new form, a new shape.
Sam's goal for the new piece and all of his pieces was to create something that people wondered, how was this made?
There's a lot of thought that goes into them. Normally when looking at a piece like Red Tail, there are so many components and angles and shapes. I had pieces before where people that have been welding for their whole lives will look at them and how did you put that together?
And this thirst for curiosity is exactly what Castner and others believe is lagging in the local art scene.
It might come down to appreciation. A lot of people will see a piece and just like it. Kind of like Facebook, you like this, you like that, but not have a complete appreciation for what it takes to make a piece.
However, he believes the art scene in the Finger Lakes is at the beginning stage of an uphill climb to becoming an integral part of the region.
I'm very hopeful that we're becoming a world-renowned location for winemaking, and a tourist area because of the beautiful lakes we live on. It's only a question of time.
Both Nicole and Rick agree that work like Castner's is on the rise.
Geneva has been in a really positive transformation, and I think at the beginning of that it was very slow and very subtle. Now it feels just like there's a surge.
Through the lens of art, you come to understand something. Maybe the essence of a place is brought to the forefront. To the extent that we can start to encourage more of that in the region, it can become a player in helping define the Finger Lakes.
It's actually just about a door has been opened and there's room for more.
Sam is already beginning to see the spark of curiosity as time rolls along and more people notice his pieces.
Anywhere in downtown, and they'll come up and say, hey, that piece at Red Tail Ridge is amazing. To have people shake my hand that I don't even know, that know who I am, that makes a small dent in how I do things now. Everything I used to take for granted has a little more meaning.
What I think is really powerful about something like Sam's work is that it has this energy, just like Sam does. This brings this energy to the table. And so the sculpture can reach out and engage with you in a very sort of dynamic way.
Rick adds that the public artwork such as Castner's is a simple pleasure that makes life more exciting.
The joy of a beautiful object, a well-crafted thing, and the serendipity of coming upon something and making sense of it.
And with each and every piece, Castner still experiences the same feeling of accomplishment.
To see a piece at its resting place for the public to view for as long as it can be there, that's where the awesome factor comes in.
To connect with Sam, you can visit his Facebook page where you can also view past pieces and future projects. On behalf of Red Tail Ridge Winery, I'm Danielle Van Giem.